and I would try to play on Saturdays. But I think most of the golf I played was in the evenings. I'd come out around 5 or 6 and then play till dark. And very often that was with Jerry Boykin or one or more of the assistants. I used to do that a lot with Bobby Smith, who I played a lot of golf with over the years. And we had several guys that would come out in the evenings, and we'd play 9 holes, 10 holes, 12 holes, 15 holes. Sometimes we'd hit it in the dark, and we would fool ourselves into thinking we knew where the ball was by the way it sounded.
Yes, yeah.
I think I know where that one is. It sounded good. You go out there, no, you could have no idea where that ball is. Couldn't find them.
The sonic direction.
But we would play a lot in the evenings, and I remember we would have a marathon putting contests on the putting green. We would pair up, and the winners of the hole would get to pick the next one. So sometimes you'd pick a short putt, and sometimes a real long one, and we would just do that literally for over an hour in the evenings, and that was that was just an awful lot of fun. So,
Well, tell us about your relationship with Jerry Boykin.
well, Jerry was the pro when I first started here, and you're going to have to help me now. It seems like Choppy's been here forever, but he was a helper in the bag room, and I can't remember. I can picture him, but I just can't remember his name, the starter, at that that time.
Prior to the chop. Richard, Dick is his first name?
I can, the thin, very nice guy.
I can't remember his name.
And then, Choppy took over that position. But I had a very, very good relationship with Jerry Boykin. I was primarily self-taught as a golfer in my day. They didn't have the kinds of golf clinics and golf instruction and teaching techniques and things that they do today. It was, you go out in the golf course and you hit the ball. And if you don't like it, you try some other way to hit it. So really, Jerry Boykin was the first person that I ever came in contact with that actually started to help me to learn some of the fundamentals of golf, other than just your own touch and feel way to do it. So I learned a lot of golf from Jerry, and I played a lot of golf with him before he developed some back problems, and it limited his golfing. I remember several times when we'd be playing in the evening, like I mentioned, we'd be like on the 7th or 8th hole, and he'd take a swing and try to get a little extra out of a shot. Well, that was the last shot for that evening.
Yeah.
Because he would, develop a back problem. I used to tease him that he would do that more when he was down than when he was up.
The camaraderie bit.
Yeah, but I still see Jerry because I once in a while I'll go over to the West Pines and hit some balls. I was over there a number of times this spring because our course was so wet we couldn't use our driving range because of all the rain. And so I would go over there and and reminisce with Jerry a little bit, and he's still as gracious, fun to talk to as he ever was. We also played in several Pro-Am tournaments with him over the years, and that was something we always looked forward to. Jerry had a story for every occasion, and it was very helpful and encouraging to me as a golfer.
He's an excellent teacher from the old school.
Well,
He really knows how to teach.
he is, and I remember I was on the practice range one time, and he came out there with one of our members, and I'm not going to mention who it was, but this member would try and try and try, but he had the worst golf swing that you can imagine. I would just like shake my head, and you think Charles Barkley has a bad golf swing. I mean, this poor guy, and he was so determined, and so he was out there pounding these balls, and Jerry came over to give him a lesson, and Jerry was very gracious and very patient and giving us some tips, and then the guy would say, well, why is that happening, or why is it doing that? And finally Jerry says, well, you have to understand, he says, the golf swing is a very complicated thing.
Okay.
So he said there's a lot that goes into it, so we'll work on it. But I thought that was a pretty gracious way to handle that situation.
You'll never get it, fella.
Yeah.
Good luck.
But I think that's been indicative of the pros that we've had out here. I've just had Jerry and Waitrose. In fact, it was one of my privileges to be the chairman of the selection committee that picked Waitrose to be the successor to Jerry Boykin. That was an amazing process. I was astounded because we put out notices, and again, I mean, this is before all the computer days and all the instant communication and things, and we put announcements in all of the regular PGA and golf magazines that the people would read and look for employment opportunities and whatnot. And I'm not kidding. I mean, I think we had over 300 applications.
Wow.
For people that that wanted to be the pro here. And how long ago? Was that 15, 16 years ago now?
Yes.
92, I think, 90, 93, 92.
It's 13 years. Yeah. It's flown by. In fact, I think it maybe even more than that.
And it's
It's
going
like
on
18
20.
year,
Yeah,
16.
Because
Because he wasn't married then, and his daughter's going to college now.
Yes. Well, we have that plaque downstairs. We have to go down and look at it when it.
Yeah, it's got to be at least 18, 19 years,
Yes.
20 years.
Yeah.
So at any rate, there was I don't know how to say it, there was a change going on, a transformation in the role of a country club golf professional at that time. There were old school guys that were the traditional type of golf pro, and then we were just starting to get into an era there where I think the job expectations for the golf professional were a little more demanding and more complicated than they had been traditionally. Part of that was with the marketing, not only merchandise marketing, but marketing the club. And part of that was, designing interesting formats to encourage members to bring guests and expose them to the club, and make the days fun, and build a caddy program. That's always been something that's been a part of our club here, which I've appreciated over the years. I still prefer, even at my old age, to take a caddy whenever I can, because it just adds to the enjoyment of the game as far as I'm concerned. And they've put a lot of effort here over the years in developing a great caddy program. Tom Waitrowicz seemed to, in the interviews, seemed to have a very good understanding of the kinds of things and programs and innovations that would be necessary to maintain a very successful golf program at a private country club. And I think that's been borne out over the years, because I think his program, as far as I'm concerned, has been pretty successful. It's very difficult to to keep pleasing a couple of hundred prima donnas every day, including myself. I would tell people that one of the least rewarding jobs in the entire world has to be being the president of a country club. And I say that facetiously, because the reason people do it is because they're interested in the club, and they want to help, and they want to do their part to help. And so we've been blessed over the years with very good club presidents. But here's what happens. Under our setup, we have a board of directors that is elected by the members, but then the board of directors elects the officers. And although we have committees, really the club president is almost a dictator by default, because there's no mechanism to countermand whatever the club president decides to do, unless it's something really, really against the rules. But there's a lot of deference that's given to the club president, and it's kind of like the old model of a benevolent dictator being the best form of government. As long as he's benevolent, that's fine, but if he's not. So at any rate, you have to make all kinds of decisions, and there's very often disputes, conflicts among the members on the way this should be done or that should be done. And so I would tell people that you make one decision and you make 8 people happy and 4 people mad. Then you make another one, you make 6 people happy and 5 people mad. And then you make another one and you make 13 people happy and 7 mad. Well, by the time you've done that for 2 years, you made everybody in the club mad at you. Because they only remember the ones where you ruled against them. They don't remember the ones where they ruled in their favor. So, I mean, that's just the nature of the job. But I also think that that's one of the over the years has been one of the strong points of this club, is that there is this governance by consent, so to speak, or there's the members, they go through the process, they elect the board, they elect the president, and almost everybody gets in line and supports the program then. That doesn't mean they don't have issues and complaints and ways to do things or suggestions on how to do things, but I think one of the strong elements out here over the years has been this governance structure. It works because of the consent of the governed, and I think we've had a pretty nice history at this club over the years. This has been a successful club. You can't say that for all the clubs around the Cleveland area or some other parts of the country, but this aspect of it, I think, is something maybe we don't recognize, maybe we don't appreciate that as much, but I think that has contributed to our success greatly over the years, because we have conscientious people that want to do the right thing, and the members by and large support it.
So your term as president was 85 and 86, I believe?
It might have been 4 and 5.
Okay. I looked in the...
Decades ago, maybe. Was it 5 and 6?
That's what the roster book says, so I
Okay.
think this guy was right in front of you. What other roles did you have in the club leading up to that? Were you involved with other committees? Or?
Well, we were on, you'd kind of take your turn in those days on all the committees. I was, believe it or not, I was on the entertainment committee. I'm not very entertaining, but I was on the entertainment committee. I think most of the my time on committees was the golf committee, and I think I spent some time on the green committee. But then, of course, when you're just prior to being president, I was on the board for a number of years, and so then you're liaison to several committees in that capacity, and then the executive committee and the finance committee, and
You did a great job we had a little problem with Mr. Bialowski, I remember, and David really came to the salvation of the club because of some design problems and infractions with the city of Westlake.
Yeah, we had. I don't know how this happened exactly, but the room that we're sitting in, the board room and what we call the members' dining room, this was all an addition, as was the area downstairs.
Correct.
So all of that was an addition, and for some reason. Our architect and the city building commissioner, I guess is what it would be called, didn't see eye to eye on things, and I don't know what the history of that was, but one of the issues was that the class of building that we have under the Westlake zoning regulations is a public use building. I don't know if that's the word they use now, but what that meant was that if you would add usable space to the building, which we did with that project, you had to bring the complete building up to the current building code standards. And one of the big issues was a sprinkling system. We didn't have a sprinkling system in here then. And So they stopped construction, the city did, because our addition, as they were building it, did not call for a sprinkling system, which meant we'd have to do the entire building, which we couldn't afford to do. And the design of sprinkling systems in those days was impractical to do because of the way our building was built. We did in effect have to put in new ceilings, throughout the entire building. And finally, a compromise was to make the old wall, be the north wall, had to meet the standards of a firewall, which would be, first of all, very expensive to do because it had to meet a certain fire heat minute rating, whatever that had to withstand, whatever number of degrees for so many minutes. And there would be restrictions on how large the doors could be. And so that was just not a practical solution. And another part of the regulations at that time had to do with the number of square feet. You had to have a firewall or a sprinkling system that would separate the building into X number of square feet. So throughout that process, and I'm working, with our contractor, and we're talking about this building and some of the unique construction features, and the floor here, the ceiling of the ground floor and the floor of the second floor is actually concrete. I don't know if it was poured concrete or concrete slabs at the time, but I think it was poured concrete when they originally built this building. And if finally, just a thought went in my head, and I thought, you know what? And I went to our contractor, and I said, what do you think about this? I said, how thick is that concrete? And he told me, and I said, do you think that floor would meet the definition of a firewall? And he's like, yeah, I think it is. I think it would. I said, well, then there's nothing in the state regulations that says that a firewall has to be vertical. Why can't you have a horizontal firewall? Because that way you'd automatically divide the square feet in two, and we wouldn't have to put the sprinkling system in, nor would we have to put that vertical firewall in. So I brought that up to the building commissioner, and he goes, I've never heard of a horizontal firewall. And I said, well, got a chance to do something new here. I said, work with me on this. I can remember the meeting with him. He just started to laugh.